Hey everybody, welcome back to another discussion, recap, review of Wutang in American Saga. This is season 2, episode 6, Protect Ya Neck. This episode opens up with RZA, Divine, and Power all in the studio, the lab, the apartment, the lab, the studio. They're all in there, and in the background we kind of see Power and Divine having a discussion about what will be the first single to drop from the Wu-Tang album. Like, what's going to be Wu-Tang's introduction to the world? Like, I mean, what's it going to be? Is it going to be, and Power's of the belief, yeah, it definitely got to be, Method Man. Because, Method Man is killing it in the streets. Everybody's loving it in the streets. The ladies love Method Man. And so, he's a star. And then Divine's like, yeah. Meth is definitely a star. But we can't put that out first because, Wu-Tang is a group tang, okay? You can't have just one member to represent Wu-Tang. So you got to have all members. And he said, I think we need to, put out Tears. Tears should go first. And Divine's like, Tears only has Ghostface and RZA on it. Yeah, but they the heart and soul of Wu-Tang, much like Jerobi is the heart and soul of A Tribe Called Quest. But still, you can't do that. And so then, RZA, who's silent for the most part, just kind of staring off into space. It's like, it ain't gonna be Tears, and it ain't gonna be Method Man. Man, when he speaks, I tell you, I laugh because I am goofy, and that's just me. I laugh at everything. But, yeah, it ain't gonna be that. It's not gonna be any of those. But what's it gonna be? Oh, yeah, Divine's like, it's like that track the way you do this. No, it ain't gonna be any of that. But man, we gotta produce something. You got all these floppy disks. Yeah, but Wu-Tang has to make a great impression, a first impression. Like when you make a first impression with a girl, you gotta make a good first impression. Because if you don't make a good first impression, she ain't gonna let you in her crib. That may be true. You're right about that. Just like the commercial says, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. So RZA is right about that. It has to be something that's going to impact. It's going to be a banger. Because so many artists have come out and gone because of bad first impressions. I actually think a lot of artists mess up by having these bangers and then their second singles are just like flat and then they go away. But he's right. You got to make a first impression. So he instantly is like, I got to start from scratch. And I thought they were going to cut in the scene from Martin where, he's at the DMV, start from scratch. So, but he's like, we got to start from scratch. But we don't have this kind of time. We got to get this out. And so then, he instantly, like, they cut away and he's like going through albums, like going through all his albums. He puts on Shaft and like, nah, not Shaft. Then he puts on, other albums and he's just like, oh my God. Then he gets his phone call. Hello? Ain't you supposed to answer Wu-Tang Productions? Well, it was Power, and Power's like, look, I booked a studio time tomorrow, so you got to have this track ready. He's like, oh, man, so now he's really, like, under pressure. So then he gets up, and he goes to the record store. The record store. If you want Sam Cooke albums, where you going to find them? Record store. So he goes to the record store, and, like, he's, like, going through albums. He's like, he don't see it there, so he leaves. Then he goes to another record store where this dude is playing the guitar in the middle, and he's like, what you looking for? I don't know. So then he's, like, looking, and then there's this other guy. This guy's kind of moving through, like, kind of following him around, and he's like, yo, they have an exchange, and the guy's like, I'm looking for something. He's like, yo, I thought you, he said, yeah, I saw D-Lover. D-Lover's that. He's Ghostface now. Oh, yeah, that's right. Y'all on that Kung Fu-ish. And he's like, yeah, whatever. So, like, this guy's kind of, like, creeping around, like, and RZA noticed he went to the same record store before him. Oh, I was just there. It's pretty flat. He's like, yeah, it is if you don't know what you're looking for. That's like a dig at RZA. He's like, yo, Pooba gonna like this. And then, so that, like, shows that this guy is actually really in the industry as well. Because he said he was doing something for Grand Poobah, which maybe he was doing it for either a Brand Nubian album or either Poobah's solo album. They didn't say. I'm just speculating. Anyhow, so he gets back home and, he's like going through the records. He puts on Main Ingredient and he has a visitation from his deceased uncle who in season 1 where he and Divine went to stay. And side note, young Divine was a family friend of mine, which, like, ooh, I know a little kid who was in the Wutang Saga. Anyhow, he gets a visitation from his weird looking uncle, who kind of looks like the moon, as my sister said, he looks like the moon. And he basically like puts him on game, like, listen, you listen to this main ingredient. I played it every day. And so, like, you start seeing like all this like shimmery stuff like kind of come into play. You see RZA kind of like spacing out, like going, like we're getting a sense of RZA's mind and his process. And even his uncle's like, oh, that's how your mind works. I didn't know that. So then, like you start hearing these beats, and you see like he's in this black room, and then like all these, R&B this R&B group kind of like comes up, Shy Lights like Temptations like Two Steps. Like they start playing, they start singing, there's something in your mind. Very, like 70s Shy Lights R&B at that time, that style. And so then, like he starts, like drummer starts playing, let the drummer play. And it's like, it's reminiscent of a typical hip hop beat that we all know and love. Marley Marl used it. Many people use this typical hip hop beat. So it's interesting to see that RZA was originally kind of in that, standard, status quo hip hop boom bip type of beat. But, he wanted something more. And so like, he started like experimenting, and we see in his mind how like, nope, you play right here. Pause. So it's like we're seeing how his mind is working, but he's working like the boards, and he's working the records, and he's, doing a little mixing himself before he goes to the studio. So then like we eventually arrive at the studio where all members are there with this little white guy named Ethan is an engineer. And the funny thing about, black people in general and hip hop, like, yeah, we gonna do this. It's gonna be black power, black this, black that. But who is on the boards, the ones and twos? The white engineer, Ethan. Yes, everybody, Ethan is on the ones and twos. And so, like, even they make note of that. Like, they like, who is this dude? Like, that's Ethan, the engineer, So then, like, RZA has an order of how people are going to go in the booth and how they're going to perform on this track that he's come up with. Like, track is playing. They're like, yeah, I can write to this. And everybody's writing as they enter. Like, they didn't have their, like, some may have had something written down, but everybody was writing as they were in the studio before they went in. He's like, first up is going to be an Inspectah deck. He going to go in. And then, like, we see that Raekwon has written his lyrics on a styrofoam cup. Wherever, I guess they didn't have enough paper. So he wrote it on a styrofoam cup. So then, Inspectah Deck goes in. Side note, last episode, I've been trying to figure out who the guy who plays Inspectah Deck reminds me of. He was giving these crazy eyes. Like, he was like, hey, Cherie, what's up, Cherie? And I was like, who is it? And it occurred to me, he reminds me of Brother Man from the 5th floor. Like, he has those crazy Brother Man eyes. Anyhow, so Inspectah Deck goes into the booth, and like we instantly see how his process goes, because like he starts like we go into his mind, and we see like this white wall, and like he starts spray painting his lyrics on, and like he has the intro lyrics, and like for me, first of all, I love hip hop. I've loved hip hop since like '86, I think. Maybe before then, but 86 is when it really like started for me. So I am definitely beats driven. I love lyrics. I love great lyrics, but I cannot hear you unless I like your beats. You could be the best lyricist in the entire world, but if I don't like your beats, I can't hear you. Like, I mean, and I know people are going to shoot me through the screen when I say this. I can't listen to J. Cole because I don't like his little mundane, boring beats. He may be the great, and then he's just boring to me. But anyhow, back to Wutang, because that's what we're here for. I do love the lyricists in Wutang. I think they're some of the most underrated lyricists, because you rarely hear them on people's top 5 lists. Anyhow, and then we see like, yo, Ghost, you ready? Nah, I ain't ready. I ain't ready. So then, Raekwon like, I'm ready. And then, then the 1A son, ODB, he's like, yo, son, I got this. And then, like, Ghostface snatches his papers. He's like, man, this nigga clowning, son. He clowning. And then, like, RZA looks, man, yo, you wrote this when you were 13 years old. What can I say? I'm a prodigy, man. Y'all don't understand. Blah 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 blah. Then he like leaves. Black man is God, and then he leaves, right? And so then we see like Ghostface is struggling here because he's having some sort of writer's block. And it's like the creative process of like being on the spot and doing things. Some people can like just do it off the spot. Some people need space to do their creativity, room to write, and then some people, can just like wing it in freestyle. Ghostface apparently was struggling. So then we kind of go into his mind. We see him in a black room. And the funny thing is, the way this character is playing, his name is Sadiq Saunderson, I believe. I don't think out of all of the cast members, I don't think he embodies Ghostface at all. Like, he may do the Ghostface eyes a little bit, but he doesn't embody his energy, well, at least the energy that I perceive Ghostface to have. And so, like, he embodies somebody who's always being chased and worried and paranoid. Now, Ghostface does come off a little bit paranoid in his, like, when you see him, like, the way he's always looking, like, he looks like somebody's always looking over his shoulder. So it's like they're playing him to be this paranoid person. And, like, so he's in this dark room, and, like, you see all these people kind of chasing him. And he's like, because even, like, my sister and I, we watched the show together, and she was like, he always looks like he's worried about something. And, like, he does, like, and he's always, like, looking over his back, like, what's going on? And so, like, that's what they show. But, like, Ghostface was definitely having writer's block. And so, then, Raekwon is like, yo, I'm ready. And so he gets on the mic. He goes in there. He does his thing. We see Raekwon, like, out in the projects. That's his mind. Like, I'm in the projects doing this. Then, like, come to Method Man. And this is when that song actually clicked for me. Because, like I said it before, I'm a beats-driven person. And so, if I don't like the beats, I can't hear the song. So then, Method Man gets on the mic. I'm like, oh, yes, this is Protect Your Neck. I hear it. Because, the beats are still not perfect to RZA. And I'm glad he revisited the beats. Because, Ethan, the engineer, is like, yo, I just want to get this over with. It sounds great to me. It sounds good to me. Like, Ethan's bar for perfection or excellence isn't the same as RZA's. But he's just going to tell him he wants to hear because he's going to get paid regardless. That's what I'm thinking about Ethan. But so, like, they go on in the booth. Then, like, basically, Ghostface can't handle it. So he bails. He's out. He leaves. He goes home. He starts writing. And, he's still, like, struggling with these lyrics. It's like, and I think it's like a level of, I want to be better. They're trying to one-up each other lyrically. So it's like Ghostface is trying to be better. So then, like, he's like rapping while holding the baby, while trying to get milk ready for the baby, like putting it, like, the bottle, like, ooh, it's too hot, it's too cold for the baby. And he rapping all these aggressive lyrics in the baby's ear. And I'm like, whoa, wait. You getting into the baby's consciousness. We don't want that. We don't want that sort of energy for the baby. So, yeah, so Cherie comes and saves the baby. Thank God. Like, I mean, protect your neck. Protect your baby, Ghostface. And so Cherie comes in and saves the baby. And then Ghostface kind of, like, basically we come back to see that Ghostface is now at the studio with RZA. And, RZA's like, yo, what happened to you? He's like, I couldn't do this, like, he couldn't create like that in that space. So they start watching Kung Fu movies because, and then they're like, oh, yeah, let's add some of these knife sounds. Let's add some of this, blah, 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 blah. So then, basically, Ghostface goes into the studio the next day with Ethan. And he does his thing. He does his lyrics. And we have us a song. We have Protect Your Neck, everybody. And, Power and Divine come in. Or they came in early and they were like, yeah, this is going to be a hit. This is going to be a hit. They felt it. You could feel it. They felt it. So, the episode ends where, like, you see all of the guys rapping their parts. And, I actually like that. more than the entire episode. Because you can see these actors getting into character. And might I add, I didn't say this before, I think like the one who embodies the rapper, the character, the most is Dave East playing Method Man. I was like, oh my God, like, he is Method Man. I mean, I think Shamik Moore is Raekwon, but Dave East is Method Man. Like, you see that. So this was a great episode. I think like it, I mean, I feel like the theme of this season is taking one subject and dragging it out a whole show. But I actually didn't mind this particular episode versus the one on the boat where like the whole slow speed chase sort of thing drug out the entire show. But I felt like this one is like you get into the mind of RZA and what his thought process was. But I also wonder, like, was this his thought process or the director's thought process? Like bringing putting illustrating what was going on in his mind. Was it really his thought process? And I'd be interested to know, because I know RZA is one of the writers of the show. Interesting enough, I did Google like who is the writer of this episode, and it was actually a woman. I can't think of her name right now. Oh, it escapes me. It's Lakshmi Saranandam or something like that. She's a writer. She's written on was it 9-9, that show on Fox that won a Golden Globe with everybody's favorite person, Terry Crews. Was it something Brooklyn 991? She wrote on that show, as well as she's writing on this show and something else. Anyhow, I thought it was a great episode, and I say anyhow a lot, I noticed, so I gotta find some new words to add to my vocabulary. But, like and subscribe and tell me what your thoughts were. All right.